Welcome to Key Conversations, where you get to connect with the best of the music business, unlocking the secrets to exploding your music career, presented by In the Key of Success. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. The conversations you're about to hear are between our special guest and participants of my MX4 course, the Marketing and Branding, Money-Making, Mentorship Mastermind for Musicians. They are singers, songwriters, composers, producers, and artists just like you, asking their burning questions of our experts while transforming their careers over 6 weeks. If you think this could be you, check out mx4course.com to schedule a free half-hour coaching call with me to see if we'd be a good fit. So, let's get started. Thank you all for being here. And this is like super humbling treat to have Ariel on this call. So thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And I'm just really excited to hear everyone's questions. And I can't thank you enough for making the time for this. So
pleasure is mine. Fun.
Yeah. So, I gave Ariel the little gist of who you guys are. We're all songwriters and composers, and a lot of us are coming out with our first record, second, third, and the question is sort of now what? So we're in the middle. We just had our third week of this MX4 course, and we sort of started to dig into getting our consistencies across the music, matching the websites, matching the social media. So now we're set up to start sharing and start creating content. And this is a perfect timing to sort of bring you into this conversation of now what, and what are the best practices today? Because I know it changes every week. And how did you get to becoming this guru in such a humongous space? You're like the go-to person for music, marketing, and social media. So I just wanted to sort of start the conversation out with hearing a little bit of your story, what got you to where you are today, and then I'll open up to the participants to ask you. We'll do some like laser questions, and we'll keep it under an hour, and we'll just sort of see where the conversation goes.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. What an honor. And congratulations to the people, not only that I can see, but the people that will be listening to this. It is very rare to find artists that take action in the way that you're doing it. And how did I get to be a guru? Which is such a weird word. Yeah. The answer is I took action. I think anyone that shines in their space or is really good at their craft, you've got to do a lot of interior work as well as the exterior work. And what I find is mostly, especially with artists, there's such an attachment to, I really want my art out there. I really want to be seen. I really want to be heard. I really want to make a difference. But there's often something super blocking, which I know Cheryl's probably helping you get out of your own way so that you can kick some ass with your work and your craft. So the really short answer to how did I become this person, I set a huge intention to be this for artists. And then I studied internet marketing. I studied social media. I studied, business. I started as a traditional publicist when I was really young. I'd only had 2 jobs, one at a record label for a year and one at a concert promoter. And I had a dream to sort of do my own thing. And in the music business, no one gives you a job, so you have to go make your own. And so I did. And it's been a really amazing journey. And Cheryl's right. The whole social media and online marketing thing is a shapeshifter. And to be good at it, you have to keep your chops up. Unlike practicing your craft, where once you begin to master, you're not going to get thrown like, oh, look, your instrument has 20 new keys or 50 new ways that you can play it. Unfortunately, that's what happens with social media. And staying nimble with it can be a challenge. You have to sort of be okay with not being a perfectionist. And I think that with artists, you work so hard on your craft and your songwriting and your music. You are a perfectionist in that domain. And to be really successful with social media, you have to kind of give up that sort of perfectionist inclination. And if you do post a tweet with a typo on it or you post the wrong link, don't just let all that go. The thing that's very cool about social media is it moves very quickly. And so you don't really end up having to obsess over. It's not like if you put out a horrible video or a song that you're really embarrassed about 5 years later, because most of it disappears into the ether. So that's what I can say about a context for setting yourself up for social is don't be attached to making it all perfect. It is a work in progress, and have some fun doing it. That would be my other main jumping off point around how to do it well.
That's awesome. So I have something here that I sort of keep near my desk at all times. Look familiar?
Woo-hoo, yes.
We've been talking about like just sort of starting to get into the idea of like splitting up your posts so it's not all about you. There's a little bit of shining lights on someone else. There's a little bit of just letting people into your personality. And I sort of was going by a very simple rule of thirds. You've sort of divided into 5 levels here, like a food pyramid, which I absolutely love. And I know it's available on your website, cyberprmusic.com or cyber.
Yeah, we did the 2015 version, so you can find it actually at cyberpr.com.
Awesome.
And there's an updated new pyramid to refer to. But yeah, it's funny. Social media changes and all the apps change and certain things come in and out. Instagram is today's darling. But the tenets of social media, exactly what Cheryl just said, shining a light on others, I think is the key point. And if you can get to do that really well, you will have a lot of success. And I think it also will take the pressure off of feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to feel like that guy. And I think that's the other thing. When we get into social media marketing, it is not left on me that most people have someone they dislike immensely on social media and they don't like the way that person has done their social media marketing, or there's someone on their Facebook page that seems to be oversharing a little bit too much, or maybe it feels like they're bragging. There's actually a lot of studies that show that Facebook actually makes us feel bad about ourselves, because what happens is people go onto Facebook and they put sort of this fake version of themselves. You know, you only share, of course, the nicest moments, the greatest moments, the achievements, the happy family photo. And I often, when I talk about this, I talk about one of my best friends who went through breast cancer a couple of years ago. And if you looked at her Facebook page, you would see photos of her happy daughters and her family and everything looking wonderful. And what I knew on the backside of that was she was going through a really, really hard time. And she was terrified and it was awful. But you never saw that on Facebook. So whenever you go on Facebook and you see that person that seems to be overly bragging, I always try to presence that that's not reality. So another thing aside from sort of not being attached to perfectionism is sort of understanding that social media can allow for sort of things that don't feel good, like when people overbrag or overpromote. Everybody knows that artist that like only seems to be sharing when they have a show or an album and check me out, buy my stuff, check me out. And you're like, oh my gosh, did they ever take their foot off the gas here? And that's why I designed that pyramid, so that 1 in every 10 posts is a sufficient amount of times to promote yourself. And you can do some other stuff, but you just have to know what to do.
Yeah, great. So I think that's a great lead into, let's start doing the in the round questions here. Perry, do you have any questions for Ariel?
I do. Oh wait, I wrote them down.
Let's do one at a time and go around and make sure everyone gets a little bit in.
So I'm a little not confused, but like I don't know. What exactly do you do PR? Is it like a continuous thing? Is it something that I should really only be doing like if I'm doing a special project? And I mean, I'm not sure exactly when, because PR people that I've dealt with in the past have been not terribly helpful for the amount of money that I was paying them. So
one of the reasons why I'm not a traditional publicist anymore is exactly what you're talking about. And hilariously, a couple months ago, I just fired a publicist. So
great question. Let's
have the PR discussion. First of all, that was such a good question. When is the right time to do PR? Oh God.
Great question.
PR used to be in an older paradigm, I would say, up until about 7 or 8 10 years ago, you had something that you wanted to announce to the world, right? So in our context, that would be like an album or a song coming out or a tour or something newsworthy. And you would go to a publicist and they would connect your newsworthy thing to the media. And that was the position of publicist, intermediary. So I would have connections to the newspapers, magazines, television that you wanted to get on, and you would hire me to get you there. Now, with social media having come in, the news cycle of there is a moment to publicize has now turned into what they call a 24-hour news cycle. So you can see this on CNN or Fox, or you turn on any kind of, not really the big networks, but if it's a news channel. I always think of like the time where I had the aha moment about the 24-hour news cycle was when Anna Nicole Smith died. This story was just like all over the TV for like weeks. It was like, and she's still dead. Like, there's really not a story here, right? I mean, it was sad. A woman died of a drug overdose, right? That's the story. And yet we're going to see her ex-husband walking out of his house now. And, we're going to find out about, how exactly she died. Was she face down or face up? It was horrible. And this sort of goes on and on like this. So now we are attracted to this sort of ongoing news cycles, and it's expected. And you even see this with the bloody weather. It's not just like a storm anymore. There's like, this crazy stuff that gets built up. And not only that, news feeds on bad, negative news. So, you don't see a whole lot of good news. So publicists, when you hire them, are acting from a massive deficiency place because unless you're doing something so sensational and outrageous and outlandish and bad, you're not relevant to the news, which is horrible because you want to be relevant because you created music and you'd like people to review it. But if you go and look at what is being covered, you're going to find newsworthy things are covered. So major artists, major events, major concerts. We'll see a lot of U2 coverage this summer because they're on another massive billion-dollar tour. So that's one sort of thing to keep in mind about news. And with publicity today, that sort of starting and stopping, like when is the right time to do it? A lot of people get the advice that it's time to do publicity when you have a release or when you have a tour or when you have a benefit show. And I agree with that. That is a good time to do publicity. But unfortunately, publicity has gotten so hard to get that even the most well-intentioned publicists who do everything right and work all of the channels will most of the time end up disappointing you as a client because it is so hard to get, especially the larger publications. So if you have in your mind that you want it to be, Harry, you live here in New York? Yeah, so I mean, you live in the hardest place on earth, basically, to get PR. Like, what are you going to do? Go on the New York Times? No. John Perellis is covering, he's hanging out with Bono tonight. So it's really, really hard, especially when you come from a major city, to get local press. And then it's really, really hard to stand out above the 5 million, billion, trillion things that are happening in and around New York, right? You're competing with literally the coolest stuff on earth. So even though your stuff is cool, it is challenging to live in a massive hub of art and culture at any time because there's always something extremely cool going on. I mean, look at Time Out New York. Every page is like full of really big names and cool things and charity things and inventive things, and you're competing with 27 museums, and I mean, it's insane. So I feel your pain about the publicity thing. They do charge a lot of money because they have to, because it actually does take a lot of effort. The problem is with PR, you're paying for this effort and not necessarily for a result. And that can be really, really disappointing because it's very hard for publicists to turn a great result, especially with an independent artist. And I have represented so many artists, and even the major superstars that I represent, even they don't get the good PR. When I was working for George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic, which I did for 5 years, I called Rolling Stone, I called Spin, I called all, I was like, hello, he invented funk. Anyone interested? No. When did they all call me? They all called me very, very sadly when George got arrested on a drug charge. And then my phone rang off the hook. I mean, people that I could never get on the phone. Spin, Rolling Stone, the New York Times, NPR, The Wire, and what were the two words that I had to say? No comment. So that's the way the press works. They feed on newsworthy things. Now, I will warn you and caution you because I've seen a lot of artists figure that out. And they go, okay, I'll just make a really big newsworthy thing. If it is not your turn to get PR, you will not get PR. Now, this is not to say that you don't deserve write-ups, reviews, and accolades. You just have to know where the getting is appropriate for you. And unfortunately, the place where most independent artists who don't have major label pull behind them or have the super hot moment of the day thing, unfortunately, the rest of us have to take a number and kind of get in line. But a good publicist should also be able to help you hone what is special, unique, and different about you, what is special, unique, and different about your music. There's so many exciting outlets online now. They might be small. They might not have the sexiness of a LA Times or a New York Times or a performing songwriter or whatever thing it is, you sort of billboard, whatever thing you really want to be in. But it's a great place to build your story. And you have to get with a publicist that can understand that. So I hope that sheds a little light. A lot of our clients that can afford it now hire us kind of on an ongoing basis because and we're more on the social media side of the house. The social media side of the PR house never stops. And the good news about it is it's all about creating your own moments, your own articles, your own content. And I find that very, very exciting. And the reason why is we don't have to wait for them to come give us the accolade. We don't have to wait for them to come, legitimize our art. We could send it out for peer review. We could interview someone that inspires us on our own blog. We can have Cheryl blog about us on her blog, which gets a ton of eyeballs. You have to start with people in your community to help you get the PR. And once you get it rolling, the bigger things come in and in and in and in. It's just like building a garden. First you have to, plant the seeds and then the bigger things happen. But it takes time and energy and a lot of patience.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Did that answer that, Perry, a little bit? When you have project a little bit ongoing, a little bit, there's a lot of different ways to go, it sounds like. And that was a really great insight for me to hear about the publicists, it's struggle. We always assume, they have the connections, just do it. Why can't they just do it? They're not good enough. I'm wasting my money. It's such a struggle. I hear that. Like,
the worst job. And I mean, I don't know who you hired and we don't have to name names, but another sort of big problem is if you hire a publicist because they are a publicist for a very famous large person, there's no question that that publicist knows the right writers. They know the right editors. But it's not appropriate for them to go to the head of Vanity Fair, the head of the New York Times, the head of, the shouts and murmurs at the New Yorker. I mean, there has to be a reason for them to do that. And just having a really nice album, very, very sadly, does not news make. And so this is like, and I always have to calm my artists down and say, like, look, you're screaming and upset that you want to be on Pitchfork, which is the new Rolling Stone, but your music doesn't sound like anything that's on Pitchfork. Have you considered that? And most of the time, they haven't. Most of the time, they want it because they know that they read somewhere that if you get on Pitchfork, it's good and people will notice you and it moves the needle. But Pitchfork reviews a very, very specific type of hipster, indie rock, cool music. And that's not the music I represent at my company. So we don't even call Pitchfork. And if a really cool hipster indie rock band calls us and they say we want to be on, Pitchfork or Drowned in Sound or Stereo Gum or Brooklyn Vegan, these blogs that are the huge music blogs, we have to have a real talk about, okay, well, do you really belong there? If I played your music next to the last 50 bands that got featured on those websites, do you fit in there? And if the answer is no, then you don't need to fit in there. You can go fit in somewhere else. So I also caution anyone that's trying to get PR to really think about that as well. And I think it will be liberating once you go, oh, that's not my people. That's not my place. I don't need to be there because it's not appropriate yet until you do make something and it's appropriate. So I hope that sheds some light. And I know the PR thing so well, and I've seen so much questionable work, and it's really, really, really hard to satisfy, especially when someone pays you thousands of dollars. I mean, it's why I got out of the business. I hated every minute of not being able to provide value for the amount of money.
Mm. Awesome. Great. Perry, awesome question. Thank you. Let's go to one of our unseen participants here. Favor, are you still on the line? And do you have a question for Ariel? Don't forget to unmute yourself there.
I am still online. Actually, I'm just picking up a lot of information from the discussions that are going forth. I don't have any real specific questions. Actually, I had already kind of discerned things that you're mentioning, Ariel, as far as myself being an independent artist in the Midwest. My genre is interesting. I do songs about life and about love and about the Lord. I'm a Christian, and that's kind of a new thing. So I've just kind of been just paying attention to the opportunities that are presented to me as I put myself out there. And it will have to make its own way, because I don't know of anything specifically, publication or actually any genre that does exactly what I do. And I'm not afraid. The quality of my work is what's going to get me wherever I'm going.
So, Favor, do you have... Favor, I'm just going to cut you off here just in the interest of time. Do you have a niche specific question, or are you sort of just absorbing what Ariel is saying? Because I know in the Midwest, you're in a great spot for the Christian soul market, which is, I know, sort of where you're dabbling in.
Yes.
And I know that there's this, Favor's been struggling with, should I move to LA or New York? Is there something about being in a bigger hub? But, what I got...
No, girl, stay right where you are. No. I mean, unless you really love paying 3 times the amount of rent, then yes.
But yeah, Favor, I think, knowing the struggle of what about St. Louis? What about where I am? I wanted to see, I sort of want to ask the question for you, in terms of publicity and having a local market to do your unique genre. Is that something that is, it's a good thing to be in St. Louis? Does that help a publicist, having a unique thing?
100%. So yes, there's something about the big fish, small pond phenomenon that I very much agree with. There is something I did hear in what you said. And well, first of all, any kind of praise, worship, Christian music can find an incredible niche. And I have to say, out of all the types of music that we get to publicize, Christian music is one of my favorite genres because I find the community to be much more welcoming, much more loving. Unlike the snarky indie rock music blogger, you get people tend to be a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more embracing of their own. So this is a good thing. A very good thing, and should give you should take comfort in that. The second thing I'll say is, while your music probably is unique and everything you said is you don't really sound like anyone else, be very careful when you say that. And the reason why I caution you on that is people need context. And if you don't provide some context for your art, people will not resonate. So that doesn't mean you have to say, I sound exactly like Israel Houghton, or I sound exactly like Shania Twain, I'm making this up, whatever. But you have to give people a place for them to focus their attention. So even though your music might not sound exactly like a certain person, you can come up with some touch points for yourself. And I deeply encourage you all to do this. My music is reminiscent of, or if you like A, B, and C, you might like me. Now, that's not saying I sound exactly like Carly Simon meets Edie Brickell, but that might be saying if you like Ingrid Michaelson, you might find my music next to hers in your playlist. So if you can kind of think in that context, you're going to feel marketing and having your music find its way is going to be a lot easier.
Babe, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I appreciate that.
It was like an answer to a question that I sort of heard dancing around in there. I hope that was okay that I jumped in and asked it for you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome.
You know, I've seen it so many times. I specifically moved to a very small town. I'm born and raised in New York City. I specifically moved to a small town to start my career in music, and it was the best thing I ever did because everybody knew me in the town. And that trust me, that's not happening in New York anytime soon. So even though I'm born and raised here and literally know thousands of people here, and my family's from here, and I probably have a leg up over a lot of people that move here, New York, a bigger market is just that. It's a bigger market. So I think it's very nice to visit larger markets and go do your thing and go home and be the bigger fish. I highly recommend that.
That's awesome. Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Faber. Really, really awesome.
All right, we're going to stop there today. Stay tuned next week. We're going to continue talking with Ariel and get even deeper into this promotional marketing conversation. It is so important in this day and age. You don't want to miss it. So we'll see you next week. Please don't forget to rate and comment on iTunes and Stitcher Radio if you like this podcast. It's the best way to keep it going, get more subscribers, and continue to share this awesome information with the indie music community. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. All of the music on this podcast has been created by yours truly. The theme song is called Inevitably, written with Cameron Ernst and produced by Joey Ock. You can find all the songs, plus more information on my music career at CherylBE.com. If you want to be one of the reasons I can keep this podcast and my blog Living on Gigging going, then head to patreon.com/CBEmusic. There, you can contribute $1, $2, $5 for the creation of each of these free musician resources. Together, we can keep them coming and inspire other creative people to do what they love and do it well. Again, that's patreon.com/CBEmusic. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their easy point-and-click editor. All the features you could possibly imagine for a professional website are built in. So, because you are a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special 3-month free trial just for you. Go to www.inthekeyofsuccess.com/resources and click on the Bandzoogle logo to access your free extended trial.